Well, I'm Bonnie McKenzie, and I've been here in Papua New Guinea for 10 years. And I've been working in survey that whole time. And today we're heading out to West New Britain.
Tell you about survey. Survey is exciting. We get to do a lot of walking. Hopefully not too much mud and rain. We're also going to be taking a boat this time around from one village, at least one village to another. And we're going to be flying that chopper there in the background all the way about 3.5 hours. So I've taken the minimum of survey courses, just one summer of courses to get here, and it's all that's required at this point. So if you have an adventurous spirit, you can jump right in.
I wanted to go into missions since I was really little, so I went to college with that in mind, and joined Wycliffe shortly after college, and met him after that as well. We met at the Canada Institute of Linguistics, where we were both taking summer classes. And a year later we were married, and then a year later we were here. So
we're pioneer Bible translators, but we're partnering with Wycliffe right now. Both of us are fairly new to survey ourselves, so we're learning from Bonnie, who's had quite a lot more experience than we have. So we're excited to be here. I grew up kind of knowing about Wycliffe and Bible translation, and so, like Katie, right out of college, I joined Wycliffe. And then during classes with SIL, I met Brian, and he was with Pioneer Bible Translators, so I switched over to that when we got married.
I went to Bible college with the idea of going into missions, and then moved immediately down to Dallas to do graduate work at the SIL school in Dallas, GIAL. That's where we met Hannah, and we both finished our master's degree, so we got the max amount of education before we came over. We're just trying to get some actual real experience along with all the theory that's going on in our heads.
Good. I guess the main point of survey is making sure that once a translator gets out to a certain language, that their work is actually going to be used and going to be around for multiple generations, and that the language isn't just going to die out in a generation or two. So yeah, I think to me that's really important, just because, you know, if we're going to go to all that work of translating the Bible, which takes, you know, however 10, 15, 20 years, it should stay around for a long time and be able to be used. So that's what survey is all about.
What are your future plans? Do you want to keep doing this, and then what?
I'd love to stay involved with survey. I'm actually about 6 months pregnant, so I don't know once the baby comes how feasible that's going to be. I know in some countries, or at least I've heard of surveyors that have taken their kids on survey. It may not be quite as feasible here, just because we're flying all the time. I think in Africa they do surveys mostly by vehicle, so it's more feasible that way. But I think it'd be cool too to be able to have a kid on a survey, because then people are like, oh yeah, you're a real person. You know? It's just one extra connection point with people. And definitely we've seen in the village how the people here just love little kids, so that'd be a cool thing. But yeah, we'll see. I may end up sticking around Nukarumpa mostly.
It's a great place to work in missions. For one of the main reasons is Ukarumpa, and just a huge facility of support workers that allow people to go out and be out in some of the most remote and inaccessible places on the earth, because there's hundreds of people supporting them, literally in the country. And one of them is all of these planes here are all allow people to get to places that you can't get to. We're getting ready to take a helicopter because there's no airstrip. And that's just not feasible in many places in the world, to get to the more remote places, because there's not a center like Ukarumpa. The other great thing about Ukarumpa is that it's nice to come home to. It's culturally just not quite Papua New Guinea. It's closer to the West, closer to America, closer to home. And so it's nice to after a few weeks out in the bush as surveyors, or even a few months as linguist translators, to come back to a house that's relatively Western, with flushing toilets and a store where you can get prepackaged food and all of the wonderful things of life. Ukarumpa really makes Papua New Guinea a great place to do missions. But really, one of the best things about Papua New Guinea is the people. They are just so warm and loving. They're so much fun to work with. They are usually very proud of their heritage, proud of who they are, proud of their language. The languages that we work with, they're very proud of who they are. And so there's a lot of fun to work with as linguists. And I think as a translator, I think one of the best things is you can usually know just about every speaker of the language you work with. Languages here are much smaller, so you can get a good grip on everything, as opposed to an African language that has millions and millions of people. You can only know a couple hundred, but here a couple hundred could be the entire language. So it makes things really good and really fun, because you can actually get to know everybody.
Well, I would say that PNG has something for everyone. I mean, there are so many language families here. If you like Austronesian languages, there are lots of those, and there are all kinds of other languages. If you plan coming to do linguistics and you find out that's not really your strength or your interest, I know people who've come to do that and have wound up doing other things here, and I know a pilot who was here working at aviation and wound up becoming a linguist, translator, and he's out translating the Bible. There's also school here, so people can come to teach or work in construction or all kinds of things. It's a country of a great variety. I mean, we're here in the Highlands, it's cold, we're having a chilly morning, but in probably an hour we'll be down on the coast and it'll be hot and probably sunny, maybe rainy, I don't know. So there's a lot of variety here as well.
In 2005, I came here as a secondary school teacher and met a whole lot of surveyors who were young, single people, and thought that it looked attractive and adventurous. And so I went back and did some schooling and came again in 2007 for a year as a single surveyor. Went home and got married, and now I've come back as a married surveyor. So.
Okay, what keeps bringing you back here?
Oh, that's a hard question. The people, both the expatriates that are working here and the Papua New Guineans themselves, and something about this country just draws me to it. I think probably that's God, but yeah, I love it here. I love being part of the work here. I love being part of the community here. There's just so many things that are drawing me that it's difficult to pinpoint one thing as to why I keep coming back to Papua New Guinea.
If we had gone to Bali.
Yeah, Bali is quite close. All those figured out. All right. The main things for survival in the front left, just in front of Katie's legs, as well as a little red bag up there. So all that stuff up there is for our use if we need it, for survival reasons. All this stuff right here will be.
From the helicopter, we actually stopped at a bunch of places to get fuel, and we went to the GPS coordinates that we had for our first village, and we landed, and there was no school. There was supposed to be a school in this village, but there was no school, so we landed on the beach, and we got out, and the people came running up, and it was the wrong village. We were actually in the wrong village. We were in a village that we were supposed to be at 2 days later. So they told us, no, the village you're supposed to want is up the coast a couple kilometers. So we got back in the helicopter and said, okay, we'll be back on Sunday. We got back in the helicopter and went back. And it was actually really nice because they were actually ready for us when we got there on Sunday. So it made things kind of fun. It was a fun little story.
Whenever we first arrive in a village, we try to wait until there's enough people around that we can talk to them about various things that we'd like to know about. So language use and education and church and those kinds of things. So when we first get in a village, there's a lot of just sitting and waiting and chatting with the people that are there. Once everybody comes in from the garden, then we give a general informational talk. And when we're done with that, we often just let the people separate themselves out into groups. And we'll talk to one group about education, one group about church, one group about language use, and another group about their culture. So that's essentially how it goes whenever we first arrive and are doing work in a village. And once we're done, we just sit around and talk to the people, and they often ask stories about the countries that we're from and food and all those sorts of things that they're curious about. So we will just sit and talk with them and go to bed very late and get up very early. Yes, there was several memorable things, but for me personally, one of the villages, all of the villages were on the beach. So food was a lot of seafood, meat was a lot of seafood type things, which I grew up not on the coast, so I don't have a whole lot of experience eating seafoody type things. But in one village they had caught a sea turtle, so we had sea turtle for dinner, and that was a huge leap for me personally, but I did it. It was not so bad.
It was very good.
It looked exactly like Crush from Finding Nemo. Exactly. He looked it up when we got home, and it was that species.
A green sea turtle.
Wow.
Very endangered sea turtle.
Really, we just collect information, all the questions that we ask people answer, and that's the information that we go with. On this particular survey, we didn't do a whole lot of actual language data. We did do 2 word lists, which is to sit down with a group of people and ask them what their language word for 190, I think is how many words we asked for, preset words, so then we can compare them later. These particular languages, though, have been really well documented linguistically, so we didn't do it this time around. So it's all just reported, self-reported things. We ask them questions about, okay, what do kids speak to their mothers? What language do kids speak to their mothers? And they answer it, and we take that, and that's what we write up at the end. And we just kind of take all of the information from all the different villages and compare them and write a big summary report of everything that then somebody can go and read and try and figure out, okay, well, is this a vital language, or does it need its own translation or not? So.
And the whole time that we're on the survey, we each have a small little notebook where we keep track of times that we hear people speaking. And so we try to take notes. It's an older woman speaking to a young child using the trade language or using the local language or using English, which that wouldn't have happened on this particular survey, but we just try to keep track of what we hear throughout the whole survey, so that if they have a preconceived notion of what we might want to hear during those interviews, we can back it up with data that we've observed. So.
Yeah, survey is always looking for new people to come. Survey is something that a lot of people come and do for 2 or 3 years, so sometimes we can have a big team, like right now we have a big team, but people will be moving on, so we can always use new people in the pipeline. And it would be kinds of people that enjoy interacting with people. There is lots and lots of times where you're just sitting and you don't have questions to ask, you just sit and talk. And you have to be able to do that and enjoy that and love that. People that are somewhat adventurous, going in places that other people haven't gone before. Like helicoptering onto a beach, or the next trip we take, we're going to be using bicycles, going all over Western Province in bicycles. So an adventurous mindset, and people that enjoy interacting with people, extroverted.
What happened to the rest of your team?
They went home to have a baby.
Okay. When did she do?
October 3rd, I believe.